Hello. So my name is Eilaf, and I am the co-founder of Sky's the Limit Autism Services and the supervising program coordinator for it. Next one. Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about us really briefly, we started in January 2017. When I say we, it says, so it's myself and my brother as well. So we started it as a family agency. So we provide therapy at affordable prices for families, whether they are government funded or not. So we started in January 2017 and it's been going pretty well. Our four principles are care, quality, passion, and support. The reason why we do mention that, and it's always one of our key things, is because unfortunately through the years, through experiences working for different places and over time and having autism within our family as well, we started to feel that unfortunately there was a lack of the passion, the love, and the care when it comes to actually working with individuals and children that are on the spectrum. So we wanted to make sure that we're not going into this from a business perspective, but more of how do we help the families, whether they have the funding or whether they don't, whether they're able to pay the full amounts or whether they're not able to. And this took a lot of planning in order to figure out how we can do that to help families and really bring down the stress that a lot of families tend to have when it comes to finding therapy for their children. So this was basically the main key and the main reason why we wanted to start Sky's the Limit. And as you can see, we named it Sky is the Limit for a reason, because we truly believe that the sky is the limit. Nothing is impossible and everything is possible. And it's not easy on families. It's a very difficult having to deal with autism or having to deal with the, unfortunately nowadays, not nowadays, but unfortunately, there is still it's still a taboo topic sometimes for a lot of families, different cultures and different societies. And we really wanted to let families know that being on the spectrum, autism or not autism, there is no difference. And basically we look at it as if a child has a skill that they need to work on, we work on it. That's basically what it is. It's not that they are lacking or they are deficient. If there's a skill they need to work on, they work on it. And it's just like with students in high school and school. If there's a subject that they're having a hard time with, you just have a tutor or you have your teacher help you. You just get extra help on it, and that's all. And that's the approach we wanted to take it on from. So reasons why we call this Sky is the Limit. We believe everything is possible. So we currently service in the GTA area. So currently expanding to Hamilton and the Niagara regions as well. So most of our families are usually Mississauga, Toronto, Oakville, Brampton. All of those areas is mainly where a lot of our families are located, but we really want to expand to further locations as well. Okay, so what do we provide? So we provide in-home ABA and IBI therapy. One of the reasons why we focus on in-home is because we've noticed for families, they feel comfortable when it is taking place within the child's own environment, especially when they are early learners and very young. This is where families feel more, they just feel more comfortable with having the in-home. And that's the reason why we mainly focused on that. And then we provide in-home respite care as well. So I won't really go into much detail with respite care, but basically it's to really provide families with the break that they definitely do need at times. So provide in-home respite care. And then we have the psychological diagnosis service. So we have our psychologists that would go through the diagnose. If families are looking for a faster to do the diagnosis in a faster way, then we provide that as well, because as you guys know, the wait times now are very, very long to get that, and that's one of the things that really stresses families out. So we try to provide that at a very affordable rate as well. So we provide that, and then the other thing is parent coaching and consultation. So our parent coaching really focuses on the family and the parents, because not all families are also still able, even if we bring down the funding and we really try to support families, not all parents and families are able to continue with therapy, and that's understandable. We try to help as much as possible, but if not, there's also the parent coaching. Parents can also learn the skills to better help their children in their own home. So we really try to focus on parent coaching as well. We do the therapy, and then sometimes families ask for coaching as well on the side. So we focus on that, and there was a fifth one that we are in the process of wanting to implement. We have not yet. It is we want to start doing an awareness in the work setting. So helping employers understand more about the autism spectrum disorder, so that they are able to help their employees, and that it allows them to be able to have the facilities and the understanding to hire employees that are on the spectrum. Because a lot of times what we've noticed is that with a lot of companies, it's not that they don't want to, it's that they don't understand. So if they don't understand, they're afraid. So that fear pushes them away of not wanting to, which of course is not okay, but how can we help that in a positive way? And we felt that if we put in that understanding and the awareness, and to help employers understand how individuals on the spectrum, how we can help them, then that will play a huge role. So this is our fifth thing that right now we're in the process of really wanting to implement, just because, like I said, we've had that in the family as well. Okay, so I'm just going to focus on ABA and IBI mainly. So ABA is Applied Behavioral Analysis, and it's basically the science of behavior. So when we do applied behavioral analysis, it's basically the process of systematically applying interventions together based on the principles of learning theory to improve socially significant behaviors in a meaningful way. So it's when people look at ABA, and I'm going to go into IBI as well very briefly, but it's a method built to really work. So if there is a behavior that we want to work on, we want to build on that behavior, right? So basically, we want to reduce problematic ones by using the methods of applied behavioral analysis. Applied behavioral analysis is basically the root. So if it's the root of different types of behavioral therapy, and from ABA comes other types of therapies. So it's a useful behavior and skills while reducing problematic ones by focusing on understanding the underlying reasons for behaviors, the context in which they occur, and the triggers of the behavior. So it's considered by many researchers and clinicians to be the most effective evidence-based therapeutic approach demonstrated thus far for children in autism. I believe in different therapies, so it's not that I say ABA, IBI is the main one. I believe in using different methods. So there's ABA, using behavioral therapy, there's music therapy, there's different types of therapy, and I believe incorporating the different techniques and the different researchers that have actually come out, incorporating that together plays a huge role for the child. And a lot of times when I go into consultations or interact with families, they'll say, should we only do ABA? You know, we've heard of other methods as well, and should we only do ABA? And I'm definitely up for that. Do ABA, try different methods, incorporate them together. Why not? So ABA methods can be used at home, in the school, and in the community. And what people don't realize, ABA, we use it in our daily lives. When we interact with one another, we can use ABA. So to reinforce, it's a way to, if there is a behavior that you want to increase, you're going to, for example, use certain reinforcement methods to increase that behavior. So we use this in our daily lives, but we don't realize that we are all ABA behavioral therapists, basically. So ABA is used at all times. And it's a method that can help individuals of any age of varying degrees and intensity for ASD. Okay, so now IBI. A lot of times the question that I get asked is, well, what's the difference between ABA and IBI? Why should we do IBI? Why should we do ABA? So ABA and IBI, I start off by saying they're the same thing. But the difference is, they're both behavioral therapy, but the difference is IBI is intensive. So IBI stands for Intensive Behavioral Intervention. It is a specific application of ABA, so it's basically a branch of ABA. ABA is the root, is the bottom, and everything and all the other types of therapies that come from it root out of it. So IBI is a branch of ABA that is specifically used for individuals on the spectrum, and it's intensive. And IBI usually requires about 20 hours or more per week. So it is very intensive, like I said, so 20 hours per week would say 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. That would usually be the average for IBI clients. When it comes to ABA, it's anything less than that, but usually most families, it's around 6 to 9 to 10 hours every week. And a lot of times, like I said, families during the consultations or when I meet families, they'll say, okay, well, which one should I do and which one do you recommend? I don't like to answer that question usually. The reason for that is because, of course, if families can do IBI, why not? The intensity. Go ahead for sure, it's an intensive program. It's almost like doing a half day at school, you're doing the intensity. But it also comes with the number of hours. Unfortunately, with more hours, costs also change. So I never go in with telling families to do IBI. We try to help out families in regards to that, but at the same time, it's what families are able to also do. Because it is at the end of the day the same thing, and there isn't really a difference. It's just the number of hours and intensity in that. So now, one of the things we try to also focus on, and is very important when it comes to implementing ABA and IBI, is early intervention. So with early intervention, as you guys may already know, is that early diagnosis and interventions for autism are more likely to have major long-term positive effects on symptoms and later skills. Autism spectrum disorder can now be diagnosed in children before the age of 2. As compared to in the past, children were usually diagnosed when they're older, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and even more that, even when they're adults. But thankfully now with research, it could be diagnosed at before 2 years old, and way before that. So research has shown that early interventions plays a huge role. Personally, from my own experience, working with children and dealing with children on the spectrum, I've noticed a huge difference when a child is diagnosed at the age of, say, 2 and they start therapy right away. I know they say that usually, when you're speaking to families, you want to be positive, but you don't want to say it's 100% cure, I've seen miracles. That's what I would say. I've seen children that were diagnosed at 2 years old. A few years later, I could not even tell they were on the spectrum at all. And I myself told the families, if you want, you can get them reassessed if this is something you wanted to do, and I knew the families wanted to do that. And they were no longer on the spectrum when they were reassessed a few years later. And I truly believe it's because of the early intervention. I would strongly recommend that when families have that, just go straight into therapy right away. But of course, every child is different, and that's okay. So the reason for that is because a child's brain at early ages is very, it's more of it has a plasticity effect, right? So it can take in the information, it changes, and it's still developing. It's still in the early process of developing and taking on a lot of information. And due to that, early intervention plays a huge role. So how can we support early intervention? And we truly believe that comes with awareness. If families understand what signs and symptoms to look for at an early age, then they can definitely look for the help and get the diagnosis that's needed and to ask questions about it. Symptoms can definitely start to be seen at 18 months, before 2 years old. It's definitely can be seen. And so bringing that awareness to families plays a huge role, and it really does. That would be the main thing. So, in that way, and if families know the signs to look for, they'll be more likely to notice them in the children or siblings as soon as they begin. So that plays a huge role as well for early intervention. So awareness is key to it. Okay, so basically just to come towards the end of everything, to put everything together. So if anyone has any questions or anything, or wants to get involved with Sky's the Limit Autism Services, we do placements, and we have a team of therapists and senior therapists with board-certified senior therapists, psychologists. So we have the full team, and we're always happy and looking forward to taking on volunteers and placement and therapists that want to expand with us. So our email, this is our website up there, and this is our general email as well, info@skyautism.ca. So yeah, we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that. So if you guys have anything, you could definitely look into that as well. I'll also be putting some business cards at the front if anyone has questions or anything. So yeah, go ahead.
So I have a question. I know you just mentioned that early intervention is key, but what about children that are a bit older? Do you think IBI or ABA is successful for them?
Definitely, for sure. And like I said, ABA is used in our daily lives, right? So it doesn't come with age. It doesn't come with, it only works with young children, or it works with us right now, you know? So it works with adults, it works with young children. So it definitely plays a huge role with all age. Yep, go ahead.
What factors of autism make IBI a better option than ABA for most clients?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
So what factors of autism make IBI a better option than ABA for most clients?
So IBI, because of its intensity, it's very intensive. So the number of hours that come with it, so if it's 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, this allows, for example, usually children that are taking IBI, the number of programs that they are doing in IBI is much more than ABA because they have 4 hours per day, right? So for example, they'll have from 10 to 15 programs or more depending on the child. So it allows the child to focus on a variety of skills and to work on more skills than ABA would allow them to work on. So yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So you had mentioned one of, I think, your fifth kind of goal that you guys were working towards, which was awareness with employers,
Yes.
Which I think is really awesome. Kind of like based on that, you must have a rationale for that, or there must be some misperceptions that people have about individuals with autism. So what do you think, like, some of the misperceptions that employers might have about, like, why wouldn't they, be more open to hiring individuals with autism?
And that's a good question. Unfortunately, when they don't understand the spectrum, they see it as they are less than. They are, unfortunately, and it's sad to even have to say that, but they would see it as the individual on the spectrum is less than. They are unable to function and to put out the work that's needed. They just don't understand autism, and like mentioned in the first presentation, if they understand autism, they'll understand that individuals on the spectrum have so many strengths that are amazing. And if they even understand that, they'll realize that that will play such a huge role in their own business. So, but they don't understand all of that. And the thing is, individuals on the spectrum, they might think differently. And that's what it is, and that's what needs to be understood about it. They might be more, they want the routines set in a certain way, for example. But that's understandable. That could be managed. It's not a problem if employers understand that.
Do you guys ever support like individuals to help them try to get employment opportunities, or?
So currently, we do not yet. So this is definitely where we are approaching towards. A lot of our clients are usually ranging from say 2 years old to around 14. So that is our range. But we are looking into wanting to help individuals that are adolescents, to help them really get into the work field. So this is our next step, and we're really hoping we're able to do that. Oh yeah?
Are you able to do assessments in first languages other than English, or languages other than English?
Sorry.
Are you able to do assessments and services in languages other than English? Because I know that's been a huge issue in diverse sort of areas. Is often to give an assessment done in a language other than English so that it may be more reflective of job skills and abilities, or person skills and abilities.
That is very true, and we do have families a lot of times that ask for a therapist that speaks their language as well, and we really try to facilitate that for them. But at the same time, it's definitely difficult to be able to have that just yet. The reason for that is because even though autism has now, the studies towards autism is now really growing, we still don't have enough individuals that are specialized in the field, but also bilingual, speaking other languages, and are able to use both. But this is something we would love to do, and we try to do that for families. At the same time, we've actually been contacted by centers and agencies outside of Canada to support them in applied behavioral analysis in other languages. So we've been contacted in regards to that, and this is something we're actually looking into, not just in Canada, but also outside of Canada, to really bring, to support agencies and families also outside that do not have these services. So we would love to do that.
Yes, I know it's something the school boards in Toronto have hope with, to have psychological staff skilled in multiple languages, because with the, the amount of immigration and stuff we have, there's people that need to be assessed first language, which is a challenge.
Which is definitely a challenge, definitely, for sure. I agree with that. Any more questions? Oh, yeah.
I was just going to add something to what you answered about the idea of job placements. And one of the big issues is also the fact that autism is a spectrum disorder. And a lot of employers just assume if you have autism, you are this severe. So a lot of employers are not looking at the fact that it is a spectrum and that there is a host of ability levels.
Definitely agree with that. That's very true. There's the understanding of all individuals on the spectrum are the same, but they're not the same. They're all different. And either way, whether they're on this side or this side of the spectrum, it's just still helping the employers be able to interact differently with each. So yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah.
And back on the same topic of employment, is the issue of if you are on the, I guess they don't really, as far as using the term higher functioning, lower functioning, I know I'm not sure about those terms because I know it's up in the air about using them, but like say someone who has Asperger's, you know, on the higher end as well. And the issue that it's more of an invisible disability at times, unless you know, perhaps get to know the person better. And then there's the idea of whether you disclose that, you know, like when you're talking about interviews and things like that, right? You know, do you disclose that as a person on the spectrum, you know, before the interview, or, you know, that kind of thing? So it's all around acceptance and
Yeah, so
employability. And
you mean, just to clarify, do you mean like when it comes to, like after they're diagnosed, do we?
I just mean as far as when you're out of the school system and you're looking at employment readiness programs and decide to go that route, or depending on how high functioning the person is, whether they decide to do that themselves, there's a lot of other issues going on. You know, do I tell them that I have a disability? You know, but it doesn't even have to be autism, right? Just depending on, you know, learning disability, right? Because those are invisible disabilities, and you know, so losing my train of thought.
No, definitely. And do you mean like in the like when
Like during an interview or even getting to that stage. So I guess if you're going through an employment readiness program and perhaps community living, you know, they have support in place that would help you with that process too. So in that case, the employer would already know, excuse me, that you have an idea, that you have a disability. So that could be helpful, or it could not, depending on how receptive the employer is.
the employer is, exactly. And that always depends on the individual if they want to let the employer know or not. But like you said, the employer could be receptive to it, and fortunately they could, a lot of times are not yet. But I feel like the more they understand it and the more we all become inclusive of it, then it won't become a taboo anymore. And everyone is different, and that's how I see it. Autism isn't less than, anyone with any sort of differences is not less than. We're just all different, and we're all human, and we have skills we want to work on, and we all have skills we need to work on. And that's how we see it, and hopefully employers do see it as that, and that's definitely one of our main goals. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, I think I definitely went over the 10 minutes, so I'm sorry about that.